And welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back in with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reactions. This time live, as I like to do with this show, to get both my reaction and your reactions to what has been an incredibly active afternoon for Arsenal in so many ways. So many things have happened which I genuinely never thought I'd see happen. The Kroenke family coming out and addressing the fans, addressing the latest news, addressing the hashtag We Care Do You, which, I mean, it is a different level of reaction. I've never quite seen anything like this. It's such a strange and a new sort of place to be in as an Arsenal fan, seeing this happen. And we're going to react to all of it and react to all of the latest news. Hello to everyone in our live chat. I can see all of your messages come up on the screen. Please get involved, ask some questions a little bit later on as we react through all of the latest news. And if you're enjoying these shows, please do give the show a like and subscribe if you're new with those notifications turned off so you never miss one. Hello, Richard. Hello, Giancarlo. Hello, everyone who is watching. I'm sure everyone has said hello as well. I'm sorry if I've missed that. But I'm so glad you're all tuning in to react to what has been amazing. I'm going to start with the biggest news, arguably, which is the Josh Kroenke interview with Arsenal and with our good friends. It's amazing that if you tune into the Gooners podcast, which I'll link the description afterwards, obviously people watching live, you won't be able to see it right now, but if you're watching on playback, it will be there in the description, that Mike and Andy, who I've both met and they're brilliant people doing the Gooners podcast, actually sat in a room with Josh Kroenke and Raul and Vinay and the team, and they got to ask him questions, and it was amazing to hear from them what the experience was like. And they actually did a video on that, which you can check out on their channel, the Gooners podcast, reacting to that. And you can obviously read the transcript on Mike's Twitter, the Gooners podcast, at the Gooners podcast, which tells you everything you need to know about that. So please do go check that out. But they asked some great questions. But the key thing that I've taken from it, and I've basically done a huge closed analysis on it, is the words which are in the title and in the thumbnail of this video, and that signings are on the doorstep is what was said by Josh Kroenke, which is in itself quite a mild statement originally, and then when you actually look into it, it's huge. It is an absolutely huge statement. It's a statement of intent. It's a statement to say that things are happening and that we are in the final stages of getting some deals done. And he said signings plural, and he didn't say it singular. He said that we are imminently about to make some signings. Now, that has coincided with some recent news today, which we're going to go into on some certain players, including obviously a tactical breakdown video that I did yesterday on the Brazilian winger Everton, who did fantastic for Brazil at the Copa America and has scored a fair few goals for his club Grêmio this season. If you want to get some more info on Everton, check out the tactical breakdown that I did yesterday on the Grêmio winger, and it gives you all his stats, all his breakdown, his heat maps, everything. And we are supposedly now sending out our doctors to go sort a medical for Everton in Brazil. He's actually scheduled to play a match for his club this week, which probably won't now happen if it is true that we are making this deal. What do I think of the signing? If it does come to fruition, I think it's huge. I think it's actually a statement of intent by the club to go out and pick one of the most highly rated wingers in Brazilian football at the moment and take him for what I can only say is an absolute steal. And we used to never think of £35 million as a steal, but when you're seeing the likes of Wilfried Zaha being touted to 80 to £100 million, bringing in this 23-year-old, someone who is younger, who's got a lot more potential, has shown that he can do it on the biggest stage in one of the biggest national sides in Brazil, and win the player of the tournament, and win the player of the final, and win the Golden Boot in that competition as well. It speaks absolute volumes to go out and get someone like him. And so if we can bring in Everton and can get this deal done for the reported fee, I think it is a big statement of intent. I think it's extremely exciting. And I would love to get your thoughts as well. So tell me what your thoughts are on the possible signing of Everton in the chat box if you're watching live, and in the comment section if you're watching on playback. But I think it's huge in my opinion. And Richard Cannon says if he flops, we can sell him to Everton. The amount of comments I've got on these videos saying, are Everton only really worth 35 million? I mean, there's some top quality comedy going on here. Everton would be a great signing, says Vilmore Jackman. James King James says he doesn't believe the Kroenkes, they're snakes. You're entitled to your opinion, fella, it's all fair enough. He read Josh's comments, and for some reason I can't believe Josh, something about him, ergo this model of the club. Yeah, I mean, there is going to be some animosity. There's going to be some apprehension about all of this, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Time will tell, and actions speak, as Lee Judges says to me all the time, actions speak a hell of a lot more than words, and we are going to see that with what comes over the next few days. So if we can get the signing of Everton over the line, Arjun says, imagine Everton with some top quality training. Yeah, if we have top quality training, I hope that we do, then it really would be a good signing. And then the next bit of news which has popped up is that we are very, very close to agreeing a deal with Real Madrid for the loan signing of Dani Ceballos. Obviously someone that was linked to ourselves, and nice to get one over Tottenham this time. They came in, obviously we very well documented, they hijacked the William Saliba deal, and now it's down basically to him whether he wants to join Arsenal or Spurs. And the latest reports that I've seen are actually that he is leaning towards the Gunners, which is positive as well. But how good is Ceballos? We obviously nicked him. Spurs were in talks for him earlier on in the window, and now we've sort of swooped in ourselves and got one up on them, and seemingly are very, very close to sign Dani Ceballos. So in terms of how good is he? Well, as per you'd expect me with my La Liga knowledge, I've also done a tactical breakdown on Dani Ceballos, which for people watching on playback will be in description as well. But you can go check out that video on him in the video basically section. Click on the videos of the channel and you can check out the tactical breakdown on him. I just think Dani Ceballos is a fantastic player. I think he's someone that would be a great asset to the club. The logistics of the deal are that it would be a loan for a single season. There's no option to buy. There's no obligation to buy. But obviously it would put Arsenal in a strong position, even if they wanted to make that signing, because he's then built up a relationship with the club. He would make a decision basically if he wants to stay here or not, but he does have a long-term contract. But even in the short term, and trust me, I'd love to buy him, as Ryan Williams says there, he'd love to buy him as well. I would love to buy Dani Ceballos, but getting him on loan for a single season, I think is extremely clever. I think it's extremely savvy. I think it makes sense considering our budget. I think the fact that we've lost the likes of Aaron Ramsey, if there was one player I could pick to replace Aaron Ramsey for a single season, it would be Dani Ceballos. Someone who's young, someone who's done fantastically well at the European Championships, and obviously did really well winning that of the under-21s. He was one of the players of the tournament with the likes of Fabio and Ruiz as well. But he stood out. He scored fantastic free kick. He scored a couple of fantastic goals. His through passing was amazing. You can see some of the clips in the tactical breakdown that I did of him. And he is just a really, really talented player. You can't really judge him too much on his time at Real Madrid because of the lack of game time he's been able to get. But at Real Betis, he was shining light in that team. He absolutely shone in the midfield. He took the ball forwards. He's a fantastic dribbler. He's got fantastic vision. He sees passes that not many players can. And that type of player in our midfield, after losing Ramsey, really makes that hole so much smaller from losing someone like Aaron Ramsey. And we're replacing him someone with bringing him with a loan fee. And then next season, when hopefully we can use his abilities to qualify for the Champions League, when we have more money available to us next summer, maybe we can go out and either buy Ceballos or replace Ramsey properly with a fully established midfielder, which could be possible next season. We could be seeing Saliba come in as well. It could be really, really positive for the club. So I have absolutely no issue with this being purely a loan. I don't really see this as a negative. I think that you've got to take the opportunities that come to us when we're in this area of financial strictness this summer. And this is a fantastic opportunity to go and take. So if it is, in fact, true that we are very, very close to the loan agreement of Dani Ceballos, it's been reported across a lot of the top Spanish outlets out there. And apparently he's very keen to work with Emery, which is another great pull. I just think that it's extremely positive for the club to see this happening. The last one, slightly little somber news, is obviously on the Kieran Tierney. And the last time I spoke about Kieran Tierney, I spoke to Brian McVeigh of Reed Celtic, and he gave me his lowdown on that. And you can go check that out in the latest Raw Reactions video before this show. And basically in that video, we talked about the fact that we launched this £25 million bid, which was the amount that Celtic wanted for Kieran Tierney, but that has been rejected. Now, there's difficulties to this deal because whilst we've bid the £25 million which Celtic wanted, it's not the same amount of money that they want because it's in add-ons. The structure of the deal doesn't work in Celtic's favour. They want £25 million guaranteed. It can be in terms of what he gets over the structured payments over a certain amount of time, but the fact we've put in certain add-ons that might not eventually add up to £25 million if Kieran Tierney doesn't get to those add-ons and those achievements basically, then that obviously leaves them a little bit bit shortchanged. So they want a deal that is 25 million with guaranteed to get that money over a period of time or in a single payment. I think it will still eventually happen. I don't think we should hang up our boots on this one whatsoever. I think he's too good of a player to not sign for the club. Kieran Tierney is a fantastic left back. He's one of the most highly sought after left backs in terms of a player of his age across Europe. That's why the likes of Napoli have come in for him. Speaking to Brian McVeigh in his video, he said that he's much more athletic and skillful and tenacious than what Andrew Robertson was when he was the same age as Kieran Tierney. And I think to let this one go would be hugely detrimental for the rest of our season. So let's get some into your comments of what you're thinking about. Talk to me about Ceballos. Talk to me about Everton and of course Kieran Tierney. And if you're enjoying the video, please give it a like. But throw your comments in this comment section below. And we'll get on with talking about some of them. My voice is starting to go though, so we'll see how long we can stay on for. Ryan Williams says, yes, Richard, they should. In terms of Richard's reply, apparently Emery has urged the board to sign Tierney, says Richard Banks. And Ryan's replied to him saying, yes, Richard, they should. I hope in January we buy some defenders instead of loaning, depending on what's going on. I think it is going to be very touch and go in terms of a centre-back this summer. But I was talking to, obviously, our good friend Drew of the show at FM Lera on Twitter. And if you think about it, if we were to get in Martinelli, Everton, Tierney, Ceballos on loan, and Saliba for next season, possibly even an additional centre-back that would come into it this season, my God, that's a hell of a summer. When we used to think that we were getting so frustrated with the lack of signings, and yes, nothing has yet happened, I'm well aware of that, but it is hard not to get a little bit excited about these links. I think it is really, really positive, and if we can get these over the line, I think it would be hugely positive for the club moving forwards. Let's see what else we're saying. Boris A says, I think is a lot of offensive links, Everton, Ceballos, but really what we need is defensive midfielders or a defender. In terms of defensive midfielders, I don't think that's a priority, personally. I don't think defensive midfield is. I think that the centre midfield option in Ceballos replacing Ramsey is key. I think improving the left back is obviously key. I think improving our centre back roles is definitely important, and needing to add goals to those wide positions up the forward line is definitely important. Defensive midfield is filled by Torreira at the moment. I think Torreira, obviously, we had a little bit of a scare with him possibly moving to AC Milan. That passed, and he's definitely going to remain at the club moving forwards. But Granit Xhaka is going to stay, and I know he divides a lot of opinion, but he can do a job in that midfield. But with Ceballos in there as well, I think you add a lot more creativity. You're not as much on Xhaka to provide that passing fluidity throughout the midfield. He doesn't need to play as many of those risky passes he might do previously. Ceballos can be the player that's going to make things happen in the midfield. People were saying in the chat, we need that Santi replacement. Ceballos, whilst he isn't Santi Cazorla, he definitely adds a lot of the passing flair that we've lacked since we definitely lost Santi Cazorla from that midfield. So I'm very much happy for Ceballos to come in and add his qualities in there. Phil Hulk says, I'm happy to keep Chambers as backup, but another centre-back to come in for next season would be great. Everton would be a great signing. Yeah, in terms of the players that are actually staying here, the likes of Callum Chambers looks like he's going to stay. Obviously, he played most of the season at defensive midfield for Fulham, and he got player of the season for them. Is he better than what we've got already? I'm not really sure that he is, but it's still great to have that depth in the squad. He can play multiple positions like centre-back and right-back as well, and I think that's going to be important. People in the chat are also saying that Ainsley Maitland-Niles needs to be moved to centre midfield. Daniel Skilton says that. Yes, I think that he definitely needs to get a chance in that midfield, but ultimately I think he's going to be covering at right-back whilst Bellerin still recovers from that long-term injury that he's been out from. Continuing on with some of your comments, Arjun says, does Ceballos contribute defensively? Yes, he does. He's not an out-and-out attacking midfielder. He's a centre midfielder, and he does get back. Again, if you want to get more information about the Spaniard, please go check out the video on Ceballos and the tactical breakdown I did on him. It breaks down all his defensive stats, his attacking stats, his passing stats, heat maps, everything, and you can go check that out in our videos. Nesta Costa says, top four. What do we think? If we were to sign the likes of Ceballos, Everton, bring in Tierney, get a centre-back in as well as obviously the Saliba deal. I think that bringing in a centre-back as additional backup this season is vital. Not just Saliba on loan back to Saint Etienne. I think if that happens, yes, I think we can make top four. You've got to look at the likes of Chelsea, who are in a real bit of a pickle because they can't make any signings. Yes, they brought in Pulisic, but he's nowhere near the level of Eden Hazard, and that is going to be a massive loss to them. The striking department for them is an issue. They've lost Higuain. They chose not to sign him again this season. Olivier Giroud and Batshuayi are going to be those main two strikers. They can shift other players inside into the middle. They've got a lot of their youngsters that did very well last season, like Mason Mount coming back in. They've got other young players in that midfield coming back, and their defenders. And Purdue, for instance, is improving every year, every month pretty much in the development that he's gone through. But I still think they're going to struggle with what they've got available to them. They've got a very inexperienced manager now, which is going to affect them. And then you look at Manchester United. Now, Manchester United are always a wild card. They still have an inexperienced manager. They still have issues in terms of player performances. They have the issues going on with Paul Pogba. They have the issues with Lukaku looking like he's going to leave. But does that mean they're going to be bringing someone in? Possibly. They're paying their players way too much for what they're giving them. Alexis Sanchez just hasn't hit the ground running. And I just think moving forwards, Manchester United are never going to be a solid, stable side for the next few seasons. And we need to take advantage of that. Tottenham Hotspur, obviously, our next team that we're in contention with. I'm not even going to bother looking at Manchester City and Liverpool because they're way ahead of us, and it'd be naive to do so. But in terms of Tottenham Hotspur, they've made a fantastic signing in Ndombele. But there are links with their players leaving. In terms of Christian Eriksen, could be going off to Atletico Madrid this season. If they lose him, that is an absolutely massive hole in their side that they'd have to replace. And they've still got the issues with the money that's restricting them from the stadium move. So they've got to deal with that as well. That's a lot of information I've just given you based on one question, but I think there's great chance to get into the top four if we do things right, if we make these signings and move forward in more of a positive way. Any more of your comments coming in now? Barella moved to Inter. Yeah, Barella was a great signing for Inter Milan. He wanted that move. He could have moved to a bigger club, but he really had Inter in his heart for that one. Mohamed Salah says, we only need 3 players, left back, 1 centre back and 1 winger. And that's it. I do have a feeling that we will get those players in. I have a feeling that we will as well. I think they're key positions that definitely need to be improved in. Ian Pearce says, typical Arsenal crying out for defenders and probably end up signing Brazilian attackers and selling Koscielny. Yeah, it is maybe slightly Arsenal, but I am confident that I think we will strengthen the areas that we need to. Ryan Williams says, do you think we should move Iwobi into the centre attacking midfield position? I think we should give it a go. Martinelli and Nelson or Everton on the wings. Yeah, let's talk about Alex Iwobi briefly before we cut off the video. I think he definitely needs to be moved more centrally. I think, obviously, we know the inconsistencies of Mesut Ozil. We know that there's not going to be Mesut Ozil moving forward to play week in, week out. He's just not good enough for the club. He's not that consistent. Alex Iwobi played really well, I believe, for the Super Eagles in Nigeria this summer at the AFCON, and obviously he played in more of a central role. He scored a few goals as well, and I think that if he can bring that form into the team, yes, playing late into the summer means he might not be integrated right at the start, but we've got the likes of Ozil to start those games if we need to. It really depends on the formation that you want to play, because I personally would play with a midfield 3 if we sign Ceballos, of Torreira in behind, Granit Xhaka, and then Ceballos in that midfield 3 with a front 3 in front of them, most likely of Everton, Aubameyang and Lacazette, with different rotations of Martinelli and Saka and Nelson. I wouldn't play either of those 3 from the start. I don't want to throw them in. I want to ease them in, give them minutes where necessary and build them up. There's no point wasting that potential by throwing them in immediately. I don't think they're players which are going to take it in their stride massively, so I think it would affect them, and I think we need to be careful about that, and so you need to ease those types of players in. It was great to see Martinelli score yesterday. What a way to boost his confidence, but I just don't think we should be throwing them in at the deep end quite like we would with other players. Danny Alves said he wants 200,000 a week. Well, he's been on a lot of money, easy. In terms of signing Danny Alves, I think it would be a good signing. It's a free one. Bring him in for a year. It's nothing like Lichtsteiner. It's a different level player. And I think it would give us some decent cover. I really would like that signing, to be honest. And it'll only be for 1 season, and we've lost a lot of our wages by the players that have left. Lau says, hey man, what do you think of having Kolasinac as a backup winger due to his inabilities of defending and having Tierney and Monreal as our left backs? I actually asked Drew this question about Kolasinac playing as a left winger. He's never really done it before, but he has been brought on the pitch to play in more of an advanced role where Monreal has been playing left back. I think it's an option. I don't think it's an option to start with. I think it's an option off the bench when we're playing more defensively and need someone to come on who can do both jobs. But I think it's someone that can add definite depth to the team, but I also think there's possible value there that if you want to reinvest that, he's someone that you could definitely do that with. Couple more questions and then we'll move on. Daddy Spark says, how old is Everton? I still prefer Zaha. There are great chances we can create chaos for Palace with him and make him force a move. Everton is only 23 years old currently. Doesn't turn 24 till next year, if my information is right. And I think in terms of Zaha, when you're arguably buying a player who's 3 years younger than Zaha for less than half the price, and not giving Manchester United £20 million to play with, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. I really won't. Christopher Rania says, is Senderos available on a free? Top bands. Praveen TG says, fans booing Mustafi is out of order. 100% agree with you, mate. He's here at the club. Whilst I'm frustrated, he's still here, and he does drive me absolutely mad. When those players on the pitch, you need to get behind them. Richard Banks says, out of the three, which players do you think is most needed? I think Martinelli's most needed. I think we needed to show that we needed to bring in someone from the likes of Brazil, show that we can actually integrate them to the squad. Do you remember what happened to Wellington Silva? We can't let that happen to Martinelli. We need him integrated. We need to show that we're able to develop young players, bring them in from foreign countries, and make them into world beaters. K-Man says, question, Tom, did you watch yesterday's friendly? If so, did any youngsters impress you? It was at 2 a.m. in the morning, and as a teacher, I had to be up so early the next day for my job, so I didn't watch it live, but I have gone back and watched the highlights. The goals were really good. The Martinelli finish was really well taken. Is it Olayinka? I think that's his name, the youngster. Fantastic finish from him, and Saka getting a goal as well obviously shows what he's all about. Hopefully he'll get a new deal signed if he hasn't already. I don't think he has, but I think he definitely needs to be signing one. But I think it's positive. I think we're going to see, obviously, in the game against Bayern Munich, a lot more of Nelson, for instance. He's supposedly going to start in tomorrow's game, so that'll be really interesting. And if I can get a tactical breakdown on the Colorado Rapids game out, I will, but I'm waiting on the stats to download to the stats service that I use. And if it does come in time, I will try and get a tactical breakdown out for those games. Richard Banks says, doing live videos like this must be really draining. It's not actually. Doing the recorded ones takes a lot more effort. I don't mind doing the live ones because I talk for 20 minutes, upload the thumbnail, and it's out. Tactical breakdown videos actually take a few hours to be able to get the information, edit the videos, put them out. So it's quite refreshing doing these live ones, and I enjoy getting your feedback as well. I'll take one more and then we'll go. Phil Hulk says, we need to get back into the habit of buying players before they're world class and making profits, selling them on to build the team over the next couple of seasons. Best way to end the video, because I think he's certainly someone. Oh, and I was about to go, and then someone brings up Szoboszlai in the chat. Bichelle says, Szoboszlai, what about him? He seemed good. Yeah, having spoken to Tim Armitage, obviously he backed up the video. We did a tactical breakdown a couple of days ago on Kieran Tierney's replacement at Celtic. And I asked him on Szoboszlai, and basically Red Bull Salzburg have no need to sell the player. They don't need to, and he's going to be worth a hell of a lot more than the 15 million that was quoted. So I don't see him moving this summer, and if it is, it'll probably be to RB Leipzig, where most of their players go anyway. But I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please give it a like. I hope you've appreciated the effort that's been going into the videos over the last few days. We are very close to 12,000 subscribers, which again is huge. Thank you ever so much for watching, people. I always appreciate your feedback, and I hope you appreciate the effort that goes into them. And moving forwards, I hope that we can put out some fantastic comment when the games start flowing and the games start coming in. Tactical breakdowns, raw reactions. The podcast will be back as usual with the likes of Lee Judges, Kenny Ken, Drew, Mike, Wayne, John, everyone, all the gang will be there throughout the season, so I can't wait to get those back on track and back doing those. But join us for the rest of the season, join us for the pre-season, join us for more tactical breakdowns and raw reactions, and leave a comment in the description. Check out in the description if you're watching on playback, or come back if you've watched live to check out obviously Mike and Andy's video on their interview, where they were in the room, right in the room with Josh Kroenke. They were there with him, and they will tell you all from that when you go and watch their video. So please go and do that. I'll see you again very, very soon. This has been the Gooner Talk. I hope you've enjoyed it, and as always, up the Arsenal.